Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyadaravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karvavai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So welcome. We have a new person tonight, so let's go around and share names.
I'm Vinayak. Michael. Michael.
Joanna.
Daniel.
I'm Jim. And then we have Ganesh, Ashley, Hugh, and Mark online. Anyone else?
Neil is here as well.
Neil, how do you all? Okay.
There's also Melissa, Jim.
Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, Joanna, do you want a copy of the text?
Sure.
Maybe if Vinayak grabs you one of these here so you don't have to march all over people. So we're in chapter 3, and which verse was it, Mark?
36.
36. So to catch people up who haven't been here for a while, this is the Karma Yoga chapter. And Lord Krishna has set forth 5 ideas. Now, how does Karma Yoga fit into the tradition? It's not, oh, do you run away and meditate, or, oh, do you work in the world? It's not either or. These are practices to be done sequentially. When we start our practice, our hearts are filled with passions, dreams, ambitions. You can't flip these off like a light switch. So the teaching is Karma Yoga first, and also Bhakti Yoga first, until we get, what was the term you used, Chitta Shuddhi? Mm-hmm. Yes, purity of mind. Then the mind easily turns inward. So reviewing the 5 elements of Karma Yoga that Krishna has set out. First, act, O Arjuna. Arjuna says, I'm going to go off to the forest and meditate. Krishna says, don't be Klaibian. Don't be a wuss. Don't be a wimp. Do your duty. Get up and fight. Because he's all attached and identified. So we never gain freedom by removing ourselves from activity. It doesn't work. How should we act? According to our swadharma, our inherent latent proclivities. ride the horse in the direction it's going. You're going to do what you're going to do. But do we do it for selfish ends, my ambitions, my money, my titles, my prestige? No. In the yajna spirit, in the spirit of selfless sacrifice, serve the society. Take these proclivities and other-center them. Service, seva. And fourth element, renunciation of the karma phala data, the fruits of action, the karma phala. Krishna says, I am the karma phala data, the giver of the fruits of action. My right is to work alone, never to its fruits. Let go of our attachment to the outcome. And then the last couple of weeks, we've been working on that fifth element, which is the most challenging to understand. The renunciation of the sense of agency. Who is doing the doing? And this idea that there's a personal me doing the doing is a great illusion. This ahankriti, this ahankara, this jiva bhavana, this feeling or attitude that I'm a person. Who remembers what Krishna has said about who is the agent or what is the agent?
Gunas.
Gunas, that's half of it.
Karma.
Guna and karma, qualities of mind and the force of our past as it interacts with the society. So, for example, Joanna does fabulous kirtan. I'm a fan. I'm a guru. But I suspect people have asked you to come to kirtan. Is that right?
Say that again.
People have asked you to come and do kirtan.
Yeah.
So it's the qualities of your mind, the force of the past. You have loved it, you've studied it, but it's also the desires of other people which move us into activity in life. So there's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it the way Krishna is talking about it, that everybody is impelled into activity by the force of the past, by prakriti, their nature. What can restraint do? Guna and karma is the agent. And in other places in the text, he'll say, it's Ishvara. It's the Lord who does the activity. Ishvara pranidhana, trustful surrender to God. Or as the Master Jesus said, I of myself do no thing. It is the Father within. It is the Ishvara within that does the activity. 5 elements. All right. So, Ganesh, are you chanting this evening then? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and Mark, did you say 37 is where we're starting?
No, 36.
36. Can you all hear Ganesh, you two way over there?
I think so.
Uh,
Just be loud.
yeah, I'll chant and you can tell me if you can't.
Okay, because we'll have Michael start on chapter 4 when we get there.
Cool.
Okay.
Arjuna uvacha अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पूरुष अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादिव नियोजितः. But impelled by what does man commit sin, though his wishes, O Varshnaya, constrained as it were by force?
So We have all had the experience. I'm not going to do such and such an activity. Or I am going to do this and that activity. And that's not what happens. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And then we find ourselves doing it anyway, as if we were powerless over it. Or antithetically, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to work out and I'm going to pray and meditate for an hour, and then we don't do it. Who's ever had that experience? So Arjun is just like you and me. People haven't changed for 1,000 years. So he asked the Lord, what is it? What makes it so? There's a part of me that has all these good intentions, and another part of me that engages in this destructive behavior. Now, the word papam is translated as sin. Let's review what these words mean. Papam is always in parallel with punya. Are these terms you've heard, Joanna?
No, not papa.
Punya means merit. The exoteric meaning is we do the right things, like you practice non-injury, truthfulness, things like that. Do the right pujas and yajnas. Papam is sin. You kill a cow. You touch an untouchable. God forbid you clean a toilet. What are the things that exoterically or culturally considered sinful? What's interesting is Judaism has many of the same kinds of things. There's ritual purity, and then you have to go through cleansing, a mikvah, in order to expiate being soiled if you've messed up ritually. That's only the surface meaning. The deeper meaning of punya and papam is this: anything we engage in, either in activity or mentally, that contributes to peace of mind, to quiescence, is punya, merit. Any activity we engage in physically or mentally that grossifies the mind, ashuddha shuddhi chitta, impure mind, agitates it. See if I can give an example. Any of you either had a friend, a loved one, a partner, and you said something you really regretted? Who's ever done that? How'd you feel? Crappy? So there's no God who says, okay, you got a black mark. It's not like cosmic traffic cop. But the activity grossified the mind. Any of you, perhaps when you were younger, before you got into yoga, maybe had sticky fingers, stole something, or lied to somebody? Those are stains on the psyche. That's papam. Now, the same activity can shift over time. Many of you know I'm deeply involved in the recovery community. So when a person is an alcoholic and they first quit drinking, eat as much candy as you want. Oh, should I quit smoking? Yeah, wait a year. Just worry about now not drinking, doing any drugs. So they get stressed out, take a cigarette. At that point, it's punya. It's contributing to peace of mind. But a year later, the person comes to the response, saying, it's just messing me up now. I think it's time for me to put down the cigarettes. Same activity now becomes papa. Or somebody gets clean and sober and they put on 40 pounds. Happens all the time. And a year later, God, I'm so uncomfortable. Okay, maybe it's time to start exercising more, giving up gross food, maybe the sugar. See what happens. Same activity. At one point was punya, later becomes papa. So I invite us not to approach this from what I call a juridical standpoint. It's not traffic cop. Those basic principles. If you want to have the most basic principle, all moral precepts boil down to ahimsa. What's ahimsa?
Non-violence.
Non-injury, non-violence, either towards other beings or towards yourself. If you need something to hang on to, don't do violence to other people. Don't injure other people. Don't hurt yourself. So, with this in mind, here Arjuna says, what is it, Lord Krishna, that even when I know better, I do things that hurt myself and hurt other people? Good question. Let's see what the Lord says.
Shri Bhagavanuvāca Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Guna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhayen Miha Vairanim. As fire is enveloped by smoke, as mirror by dust, as an embryo by the womb, so this wisdom is enveloped by that desire or anger.
Yes. So this is the Lord. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, the blessed Lord said. So smoke envelops a fire.
Jim, sorry, I think I read the wrong English translation.
Okay.
It is desire, it is anger born of the active, all-devouring, all-sinful.
Yes.
Know this as the foe here.
Yes. Kama Krodha. So this is the origin. Kama, what does kama mean? I think that's not quite a strong enough word. We all know the difference between a preference and an insistence. Kama carries the quality of insistence. I like to translate it as craving. It's not a take it or leave it quality. It's I must have this in order to be happy. I will not do this in order to be happy. So my well-being is dependent on this person, place, thing, or condition. Let me see if I can give you an example. It's Wednesday. We're having class in the morning. Where do you want to go to lunch? Oh, let's go to Guru Curry House. So walk down to Guru Curry House, and it's closed on Wednesdays. Oh, what a disappointment. It's closed. Well, let's go to Insara then. Ethiopian place, block away. Okay. And we let it go, no problem. That kind of a desire is not problematic. You and I have all had cravings, desires. We have other wonderful words. Spriha. What's spriha mean? You know that one, Michael?
Sure.
Spriha means longing. Krishna, there's another one. The Buddhists like that one. Thirsty. Thirsty. Vancha. Wanting. Jonesing. The addictive tendency of the mind. I'll be happy when. It'll be better if. I must have people, places, things, and conditions in order to be happy. It's fundamentally the attachment, the sangraha that goes along with it. Now, what happens when I don't get what I want?
Rhoda.
Krodha, yeah. What's krodha mean?
Anger.
So here is yoga's definition of anger. Anger is thwarted desire, unmet expectation. Always. What about righteous indignation? Don't I have a right to be angry when I'm cheated? You can go down that road if you want. But that viewpoint does nothing to end our suffering. Anger is thwarted desire, unmet expectation. What's its cause? Kama, craving. I have a desire coupled with attachment and insistence. This is what causes my bad behavior. Now, it goes a bit deeper than this. Why do I want what I want? Who's got an answer to that?
Vasanas,
What's a vasana?
impressions,
It's an egoistic impression left in the unconscious as the result of previously performed egoistic action. What do I mean by egoistic action? It involves I-ness and minus. Here's a simple example. I go over to a friend's house and they serve dessert. And they bring out this chocolate ice cream. The chocolate ice cream. Oh my God, this is good. What kind of ice cream is this? Oh, this is Haagen-Dazs. I think it's Chunky Monkey or something like that. Oh, it's so good. Oh, can I have a little bit more? Gee, that's great ice cream. I should get some of that. So what am I doing? After the experience, my mind engages in chintya. What is chintya? In Hindi, it means worry. But in Sanskrit, it means an after the fact reflection on an experience. Is that how you were taught, Michael?
I haven't been taught that word.
Okay. Chintya, thinking about it. So after I left the dinner party, I'm engaging in chintya. Oh, that was so good. Oh, or you can have a date. Oh, that was so great. Oh, that's just, gee, I want to get together with that person again. Or it can be you get feedback from a concert. Oh, that was so good. What did I do that made it work so well that time? Chintya. This leaves an impression in the unconscious. And at a future time, that vasana comes from the root vasati, which means to dwell overnight or to linger. It's kind of like when someone's wearing perfume. They're in the room, there's this nice fragrance, and they go home and, oh, you can still smell the perfume or the cologne. So that fragrance, that aftertaste, stays in the unconscious. First sprouting of the vasana is I'm restless, I'm discontent, I've just got that squirm. Then the mind goes, Haagen-Dazs. God, oh God, I'm really jonesing for that ice cream. What am I gonna do? It's 9 o'clock. Whole Foods is open for another hour. If I run down, I can get some. Goes me into action. What if I get there too late? Or they're out of it? What happens? Pissed off. Now, the ruthless rule of the mind is this. The mind will return to the experience that's given it the greatest joy. For example, this is why addiction and gambling and sex can be so powerful and so addictive, because senses get just and endorphins, and dopamines go crazy. It's euphoric. The mind wants to repeat it. Now I'm going to tell you the truth of how to do renunciation. Krishna earlier has said the person who gets rid of the objects of desire but allows the desire to remain behind is verily a hypocrite. In the recovery community, we call that white knuckling it. Nobody more miserable than someone who wants to drink and is trying to stop. Oh, for God's sake, have a drink. You're making the rest of us miserable. But then Krishna says, but their desire leaves them on seeing the Supreme. Thank God. God is the most beloved. Or we'd all be screwed. So what we must do is not only let go of the cravings for the world, but turn the mind to the infinite. Back in chapter 2, verse 54, Arjuna says, what are the signs of the person of steady wisdom, the Purusha, the Stita Prajna Purusha. First thing Lord Krishna says, when a person casts off all the desires of the mind, Oparta, in the second part, and is satisfied in the self, by the self. Then they're said to be Stita Prajna Purusha, a person of steadiness. You have to give the mind something that is more enjoyable than the limited little things of the world. There's nothing wrong with the world. It's just little. And the mind is always frustrated, wants more, and suffers. So what is it? Kama, Krodha Ch, craving, and then the subsequent anger, frustration that comes. And what is the root of my craving? Vasana. And karma yoga is the science of vasana exhaustion. We exhaust our vasanas without creating new ones. That's how we get to this purity of mind, this sattvic mind. Any thoughts on this? It's very subtle, but really powerful stuff.
Kind of seems to me, is it a little bit of a stretch to say eating ice cream? I mean, I understand the illustration, but the part about it being an egoistic action of I-ness and minus, what's the I-ness and minus related to eating ice cream?
The opposite way, the way a yogi eats ice cream, at the dinner party, the ice cream comes. Takes a spoonful of the ice cream. And because it meets with the yogi's past experiences, it causes pleasure. It stops the mind. And the yogi goes, oh, really stop my mind. In other words, he experiences the happiness of the ice cream, but he doesn't attribute the ananda to the ice cream. He knows that this is a mediated experience of the bliss of the self. Vishaya Ananda, it's called. The bliss of the self that we experience through the medium of the objects. When desire and object of desire become one, the extroversion of the mind momentarily stops. And what you get is a taste of your own self-nature. In the end, there's no real thing called worldly pleasure. It doesn't exist. There's only the bliss of the self. You get it in deep sleep, vasana ananda. You get it through the objects of the senses, vishaya ananda. You get it when you merge the mind directly into the self, brahmananda, the rasa swa, taste of the juice of the bliss of your own self-nature. If we practice moving through the world like this, then objects of the senses no longer have power to bind us. It's practicing the karma yoga. I'm eating ice cream. Why? Acting according to my proclivities. I do it in the yajna spirit, meaning I know it's Krishna. I do it for the Lord. It is the Lord. I let go of the results. I may never have another bite of ice cream again. Renouncing the sense of agency. There's no Jim there who ate the ice cream. It's not my desire for the ice cream. Did that make it a little clearer?
I think the last phrase makes it the clearest.
So what a yogi wants to do as they move through the world, first of all, own your dukkha. If I'm unhappy, if I'm suffering, it's because I'm wanting. It's because I'm craving. Because I have an expectation. Because I have an attachment. I have an identification with a false sense of self. Always. It is never out there. But also own your ananda. Yoga never says that we don't have a little bit of pleasure from the objects of the senses, but they're inherently void. They're not bad, they're just empty. I just use the objects as a way to experience the bliss of myself, according to my inherent latent proclivities. Joanna and I are both singers. Do you love to sing?
Yeah.
I do too. Are you a singer?
No.
Yeah. Do you like lawn bowling?
Yes.
Does it make you happy?
Yes.
I can't think of anything more boring. Throwing a stupid little ball down a lawn. There's no inherent bliss in lawn bowling or singing. It's just what your proclivities are, or my proclivities are, or Joanna's proclivities. That's all it is. But the happiness is the same. When desire and object of desire become one, the Vikshepa Shakti, the projecting power of the mind, stops. The mind comes home. How many times have I showed you? Can you see Hanuman and Lord Ram?
Yes.
Hanuman's the mind. Incredibly powerful. Hanuman can fly, can pick up mountains. Ram is the self. Where does the mind find its bliss, its peace? In the embrace of the self. How does the mind experience the bliss of the self? 3 ways. In deep sleep, everybody loves a deep sleep. But it's temporary. When I satisfy a desire, also very limited and very temporary. And when I develop the trick of letting go of the whole world, letting the mind come home, Atmaramana, to revel in the bliss of the self. Independent of the world. But that isn't achieved overnight for most of us because of vasana pressure. And that's why we have karma yoga. So what we don't want to do with this verse is say, oh, I have a desire. That's sinful. That's bad. I'm going to beat myself up because I want stuff. It doesn't work. Or I'm not going to have chocolate. And then, oh, just won't tell anybody about it. Oh, I'm going to have to cut back on what I eat. Is that useful? A little clearer?
It's useful.
Okay. Any other questions on this very important point? So let's see, going on, I think the first time you did the English was for the next verse. So you give us the verse about how the self is surrounded by this smoke, this womb, etc.
धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निः यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भः तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. As fire is enveloped by smoke, as a mirror by dust, as an embryo by the womb, so this wisdom is enveloped by that desire or anger.
So the truth is, knowledge of the self, the experience of the bliss of the self, is our natural state. But on top of that, because of spiritual ignorance, I superimpose an agitated mind. Now, back to our idea of avasana. Avasana has two powers. Who remembers what the two powers of avasana are?
Veiling power.
Veiling
Projecting
power,
power.
avarana shakti, and projecting power, vikshepa shakti. What is the veiling power? I know my mind is covered by vasana when I have the non-apprehension myself as Brahman, as Chidakash, the space of pure awareness. Then the Vikshepa Shakti, the projecting power, projects essentially three ideas. First, ahankriti. I think I'm a person. And then I project a goal of some sort. Some person, place, thing, or condition that I think is going to make me happy. And the third element is kartavya. It's kartavya.
Doership.
Hmm?
Doership.
Karta is pretty much doership. Kartavya is a little bit a modification of the same root. Kri. Duty, obligatory duty, obligatory actions. The use of the word in yoga means struggle. So on an exoteric meaning, I have a duty to do this puja because this is what my family requires. If I don't do this puja, the universe isn't going to be right. My life isn't going to be right. I must do it. The deeper meaning is the struggle, the jonesing. I have to get an advancement at work. I need to be a millionaire by the time I'm 35. I have to get back and so because of what they did. If only I had a bigger house or car. Oh, the US is so terrible. We should all move to Portugal. It'll be so much better in Portugal. And then I work towards that goal. in order to be happy. Now, there's another kind of work. There's a work that is expressive, that's creative. Kridati. What's kridati mean? Play, sport, having fun. I'm going to use Joanna because she's new here tonight. So I suspect there are times when you have a gig and you practice and you're all prepared and you get Rasalila. Isn't that the name of the band?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go look up there. You see the gopis all around Lord Krishna. Their dance is the Rasalila. What it means. And that's a gig. You know, you do it. But I bet there are times when you're home alone and you pull out the harmonium and you just sing the Lord's praises. Am I wrong?
Yet sometimes when I'm home alone, I just sing the Lord's praises.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every day.
It's not a gig.
Yeah, it's not a gig. For my cat, it's a gig.
Yeah, but for you, it's just your expression, your creativity, your love. There's no effort or struggle there. Doesn't mean you don't work. You may have a particular lick in a song. Oh, no, I need to slow it down, go it over, note by note. You're a musician the way I was, a Western musician. That's practice, But there's things we do for the love of it, which is very different when I must do this in order to be happy or in order to be okay. That element is kartavya. So those three ideas, Jiva Bhavana, the belief that the Vishaya, the objects of the senses, are separate from me and inherently joy-giving and misery-producing, and the third element, kartavya, struggle. That is samsara. That's all there is to it. That's my problem. That's dukkha. That's my funny farm. And the cause of it is spiritual ignorance. So what Krishna is saying here, when the mind is under the throes of vasana, with its subsequent kama, krodha. Actually, I divide it into three: kama, karma, krodha. I have the desire, it impels me into action, and I get pissed off. The root of that is this envelopment.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So it's not that doing so much is the problem, it's the attachment that ends you up in the dukkha. But let's say you don't end up with the anger or the disappointment. Let's say you just experience the pleasure of that ice cream. Does that deepen the groove of your suffering over time if you're doing it every day, like drugs or alcohol?
Well, but in the end, what happens? I've never met anybody who does drugs or alcohol every day who doesn't eventually come to the point of being powerless over it.
Yeah.
And we could say powerless over drugs or alcohol is another form of saying I'm caught in dukkha, suffering, because I have kama, craving, which I am powerless over. And that's very different. So Swamiji used to fly first class when he'd go across the Atlantic. And he would be in the first class cabin, and the flight attendant would come by. Sir, would you like something to drink? And he'd say, I'll have a scotch and water. And people would go, oh, so much you having a drink. He hadn't won. Only when he was flying transatlantic. No attachment. Very different to the person who digs the groove.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I think there's also probably a subtle physical vibration too of that wanting, grabbing, grasping, then the pleasure, and then eventually the letdown.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a rigidity in the system to that.
Now, unlike many Western systems, which have a body-mind split, many Western systems will say the trauma's in my body, or I have a physical craving. Yoga doesn't deny that, but the inherent notion is the body and the mind are a continuum. They're not really separate. The body is just a grossified form of the mind. So, like the 12-step groups say, act your way into right thinking.
Mhm.
The metaphysical groups say, think your way into right acting. Yoga says yes, because they're not really separate. So you can work on it from either end. Is that useful?
Yeah, it's interesting. Thank you.
This is not my opinions, by the way. This is what the tradition teaches. Nothing I've told you tonight is my good ideas. I don't have any good ideas. All right, how are we doing? Okay. Any more questions on this very subtle point about where my cravings come from? And again, yoga is not the only place where we see this. Ashley, are you still out there?
I'm here.
So St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, says, I do not do that which I would do, and I do that which I hate. Therefore, it is not I that do it, but sin that is lodged in my limbs. Sin was Paul's way of explaining vasana. And that's the condition we're all in. And the solution is a spiritual experience. We are not healed so much by what we turn from, but by what we turn to. Okay, next verse,
I just have a question.
please.
It's talking about the smoke, dust, and worm. So some vasanas are harder to remove or more like sticky, or is there a gradation to it all?
There is, rather than harder to remove or easier to remove or stickier. The mind can let go of papa, something that is destructive, in two ways. The easy way is insight. So if you're going off to New York, if you're one of your friends said, I've got some heroin, you want to shoot up heroin? Have you ever shot heroin?
No.
What would you say to them?
No thanks.
Why?
Potential repercussions.
Yeah, that's called insight. I know I'm not going down that road. But other desires are so strong, we can only live through them. Now, I have a student, I haven't spoken with her in a while, and she decided she wants to do Tantra. So she's going to dive headfirst into the world. Alcohol, sex, men, money, stuff like that. she calls me up. Tears. She's so unhappy. And she says, I thought in Tantra you could have your cake and eat it too. And I said, well, it's true and it's not true. Of course, the extreme path in yoga of that is the Agora path. Anybody known an Agori? Yes, no?
No.
Oh, they do all sorts of rascally behavior. But it always ends in renunciation. So again, those of us in the 12-step tradition will understand this. We call it a bottom. A bottom is when you rode addiction so down the hole that you trashed your life, trashed your mental health, you've had psychotic episodes, and when they put you in the loony bin and lock you up, or the doctor tells you if you drink again, you're going to die because your liver's exploding, then you've been beaten into reasonableness. You become sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because that's always where riding the rail of desire takes us. Did I hear a question?
It's another way of thinking about this is you either can feed this demon or not.
Well, yes, that's the insight. That's when you see, aha, this is papa. This is not good for me. So in Kathopanishad, is that a text you're familiar with? Yes?
No.
No, it's one of the principal Upanishads. So little Nachiketas goes to the hall of Lord Death, and he says, when a person dies, are they or are they not? Lord Death says, don't ask me that question. And Nachiketas just holds on to it. So finally, Lord Death says, okay. And his first teaching, you've done Kathopanishad, haven't you, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
First teaching Lord Death says is two paths approach a person. He knows where the locus of approach is. I don't go there, they come to me. Shreyas and Preyas. Shreyas is the electable, the good, the Sanatana Dharma, the things that are healthy. Preyas is what's pleasurable. Priya, what's dear to me, the pleasurable. The wise person chooses the Shreyas, not the Preyas. Now, here's a very cool thing about the mind. The mind prefers the familiar. It will prefer the familiar to the good sometimes. Any of you had friends or clients who've been in an abusive relationship and it's not their first abusive relationship? Why would someone choose to go into an abusive relationship? What's the answer?
Familiarity.
What? Say it again.
Familiarity.
Yes, and it's all unconscious. It's all unconscious. So what Kathopanishad is saying, what Gita will say in the end, keep choosing what's good for you, even if it's uncomfortable, even if your mind has resistance. This practice is called tapas, usually translated as austerity, but the literal meaning is heat. It heats you up. But the good news is in time, the preferable, the good, becomes familiar. And the mind interprets it as pleasurable. What you look at, what you do, think about. You do it repeatedly, you're going to think about it repeatedly. Repeated thought becomes habituated thought. Habituated thought sinks into the unconscious and becomes the law of my life. This is why repetition is such a big part of the tradition. So whether or not they're sticky and stuff like that, yoga does not say there's much value in going causation hunting. You might find out, oh, why do I always attract a person like that? Well, in the end, you understand why, but you're still doing it. You've got to change the behavior. You've got to watch your mind and start endeavoring to think differently as a practice, as a vyasa. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Joanna?
Yeah. Thank you.
All this is in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, chapter 2, the first sutra. Tapas Swadhyaya. Tapas Swadhyaya Yeshwara Pranidhana Kriya Yoga. From the inside out. First comes a psychological inventory, Swadhyaya. Then we do the austerities, the tapas, moving the mind away from the papam to the punya, from the prayas towards the shreyas. Oh, it's so hard. That's why we need Ishvara Pranidhana. What's that mean? Trustful surrender to God. I can't. God can. I think I'll let him. It's right there, the Yoga Sutras. Okay, one more.
आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पूरेणालनेन च. Enveloped, O son of Kunti, is wisdom by this constant enemy of the wise in the form of desire, which is difficult to appease.
Yes. So it is difficult to appease the desire. The metaphor is it's like pouring ghee on a fire. What happens when you pour ghee on the fire? Does it put it out? Makes it bigger. I love what Swamiji used to say. He used to say, if sex were satisfying, you'd only do it once. The more you get, the more you want. We don't quench the tyrant of craving by feeding it. Going back to those people who were involved in 12-step, what's the first thing that the newcomer has to do? They have to be separated from the drug or drink. They may need hospitalization because the craving, the addiction in the body can be so strong. Then we can start working on these spiritual problems. But the root of it all, avritti, another word for ignorance, avarana shakti, vasana, original sin, Maya has many, many names. Root of it is the non-apprehension of my essential nature. What's my essential nature? A little gray ball with wings? What's my essential nature? What do the scriptures say? Satchidananda Rupaham. Pure existence, pure consciousness, bliss absolute. That's my nature. Shivoham, Shivoham, Shivoham. Auspicious. The non-apprehension of that is my essential nature. The non-apprehension of what the world is. What is the world? Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is illusory. Mithya. Hologram. Light show. Really cheesy movie. In the end, as Chandogya says, my favorite little mantra, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Sarvamidam, all this, the world, Kalu, verily, is Brahman, all God, all of it. If I don't see that, if I think I'm a person, I think the world is separate from me and inherently joy-giving or misery-producing, I'm deluded. My wisdom is covered. Rather than resolving the struggle of ego, wake up. We'll get into how to do that in the first chapter. Okay, we'll stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Shishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om